Yes, I'm going to get started with talking. It's always weird when you're just looking at your phone and there's a ring light that's blinding you a little bit, and there's nobody in this, so it's hard to tell when exactly to start talking. But welcome to our event here at Taste of Science. This is our Taste of SciArt event. Fashion is the new black. Today we'll be doing an interview with a science artist. So this is a scientist who also does a lot of art in her and uses her research to tell her science story. I'm going to just quickly go over what Taste of Science is first, and then what the artist that we have today does, and then I'll include her in the chat and we can get started. So Taste of Science is a nationwide nonprofit that aims to bring science and scientific concepts to broader audiences. So we have city chapters all across the United States. Check your local city, maybe they have a chapter. And you can hit them up for events that are happening that will feature local scientists talking about the excellent work that they do. Now, with everything going on COVID-wise, we had to move all of our in-person events to an online format. So if you go to tasteofscience.org, you will be able to see the upcoming schedule of all of our events. We're currently in the middle of our annual festival, which I believe is going on for this coming week. And we should have events on a number of days. So definitely head on over to tasteofscience.org to find out more. Now, as for this event, I definitely have my laptop here so that I don't mess this up. But this is an event format that we wanted to bring in to kind of, informally chat with scientists. A lot of the times our events have scientists kind of presenting their research to you. There's not as much engagement, direct engagement from an audience, and we thought that this might be a fun way to get some of that in. And we really want to talk about how art and using art to explain science is fast becoming a pretty popular concept. We have a lot of scientists nowadays who will use different media to convey their research or just research going on in their fields. And it helps to kind of make a connect with people that might otherwise be thrown off by the amount of jargon that we tend to deal with. And so that's kind of what led to this event being started. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So we have 8 viewers right now. I'm assuming people will start joining in. The way this will work is I will add our guest really soon. Please keep any questions, comments flowing through the chat, and that way we can read them out and answer them throughout this event. We're probably going to go we have just under an hour, and so at the end I'll have some closing remarks. But now for our guest. Our guest today is Dr. Beata Mierzwa. So she is a postdoctoral scientist. She has done her PhD and is now doing postdoctoral research at the University of California, San Diego. Simply, she studies cell division. We're not doing experiments. Beata uses a lot of her research experience to create, science-themed artworks, science-themed prints. She also has a burgeoning fashion line where, again, the clothes are patterned with really cool science motifs. And very recently, she has also conceptualized a microscopy-based video game, I believe, which we're going to hear more about as well. And so with that, I will add Beata. Waiting to join, waiting for... Oh.
Hi.
Hi, Beata.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Is everything working?
Yes, at least to me it is.
Perfect.
If people can just give us a thumbs up if you can hear both of us and see both of us, that would be great. Nobody is saying anything. Oh, okay, whatever. So yeah, thank you for joining us. I've had the pleasure of interacting with you at events before, and I'm a little familiar with your work, but I'm not super familiar, and this isn't my area of research either. So, maybe we'll walk through all of those steps as well. So tell us a bit about yourself. What do you do, I guess?
Thank you. And I think you mentioned it very well already in the introduction. But basically, yeah, I'm a molecular biologist. I work on cell division. And also, I also create science, art, and fashion because I love sharing the beauty of biology with the world. And I'm also really passionate about, getting people excited about science, about communicating science and doing science outreach. And that's why I became a AAAS If Then ambassador. And also I work with young women in bio. And I love doing that because I can get young people and students excited about science and maybe encourage them to pursue careers in STEM. So that's kind of an overall idea of what I do.
Nice. So I guess, going back to the beginnings, what is your first real experience with SciArt, as we call it? When did you start to realize that those two balls of science and of art would become like a thing?
That's a great question. And that's, for me, wasn't super straightforward, actually. I always loved both. When I was growing up, I loved science, I loved art. But when I was, deciding what to do after high school, what should I study, I thought I had to pick between the two because I didn't really have any role models. I didn't know that this is a thing that you can combine so well. So it took me a while to discover that. And so after high school, I first decided to study molecular biology because I was really fascinated with the concept of, DNA and how we are made of cells and what makes life possible and our cells work. So I first started studying biology, and then I thought, I always have time for creative projects on the side or something like that. But of course, it's not always like this.
Yeah.
So you get super, sucked into the research. And so I fully focused on working in the lab, hoping that I would have time for creative projects another time. But then about halfway through my PhD, I had a really cool opportunity to create a drawing about my research. So basically what happened was I had this fellowship, and we were going to make a gift for my fellowship organizers. To everybody was kind of giving them a little piece of art. And so I decided to think maybe I can just try and make a drawing about my research at that time. And so I did that. I have it right here. I can show you.
Okay.
I can show you more drawings later on as well. But at that time, I was working on the final step of cell division.
Okay.
So
You can
that
see
is
the two
basically
cells.
exactly. So these are two cells, and they are still connected by a bridge. They already have the separate nuclei and all that. But so then I literally drew cells using scissors to cut apart the bridge to separate them during cell division. So this is what I was
Okay.
working on during my PhD.
Nice.
And I
Nice.
thought thank you. I'm glad you like it. Yeah. So I started using this drawing for my scientific presentations because I had it. I thought, let's see what happens. And it was really amazing to see how people could remember my research even years after I presented it, because they remember the scissors and they remember the science through the drawing.
Right.
And so that's how the first time I realized that science and art, combining the two, could be a really powerful tool for science communication, both inside and
Okay.
also outside of science. Yeah.
We actually already have a question about that specific piece. Shobana's asked, what is the medium for that?
Yes, that's a great question. So that, what I showed you here just before is an art print. So that is a print of a drawing I made. And so what I do for my drawings is I start with a pencil drawing, so just black and white, but really detailed. I don't have this one particular right here right now, but there's one here behind me. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
an example for a different one. So that is
Oh,
just basically
wow.
a
That is
pencil drawing and
okay.
on paper. And then it's black and white, but you can see all of the shading is already there. So it's pretty detailed already.
Right, right. And again, what's going on here? I mean, I might have an
Oh, this
idea,
is
but
this is chromosome segregation. So this is the process. Sorry, you might not be able to see the whole thing. Here we go,
oh no,
maybe like
we
this.
can see most of it for sure.
Great. So that is the process of when the DNA is separated during the process of cell division. And that's important because every cell needs to receive the correct amount of DNA after division. So every cell needs to have the correct set of chromosomes. And
Right.
so that is kind of showing the hands pulling apart the chromosomes. Yeah, so that's what the other drawing is based on as well. But then what
Okay.
I did is I overlaid it with real microscopy images.
Okay.
So if you zoom in, I don't know if you can see it through the camera, but you can see that the blue here is the DNA. This is what
Mm-hmm.
holds our genetic information. And then this green network-like structures are the microtubules, which gives shape to the cells, and they do all kinds of really important things. So that's a pencil drawing overlaid with microscopy images.
Nice. I would say microtubules I get. Microtubules I work on. So I know that. Uh,
Awesome.
nice. I was looking at them and I'm like, this looks familiar. But yeah, I love the pictures you have in the background as well. I assume they are all examples of your work, right?
Yes.
Nice. Okay, so we've got medium covered. And is that typically what you use consistently, or is it kind of, go by the project, decide what the medium is? Is there one you're more comfortable with compared to others?
Yes. So for drawings, I definitely am most comfortable with pencil. It's just, traditionally what when I was in school, I loved making portraits of my friends with pencil and paper. So it's definitely what I'm most comfortable with. I am now trying to get more into digital drawing because, as you mentioned before, I'm making the science video game. And for that video game, I would really like to kind of keep the same style, but then also add a little bit of digital elements and make it possible to animate the things and change the colors and all that. So now I'm getting a little bit more into digital drawing, but all of the drawings I'm making that are not microscopy images are based on pencil drawings.
Nice. Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, of course, my art is nowhere near this level, but I do doodle once in a while. And it is so much more natural to do it with a pen or with pencils on paper. And then, you know, if you have to change something, there's just so much erasing to do. So I always think I should maybe learn to digitize everything, and I haven't gotten around to it. But that's on my radar as well. So what kind of program were you hoping to use? Is there one that's good for beginners? Do you know?
I didn't really try many different programs. My favorite has always been Adobe Photoshop because I used it to work with my drawings. So after I do the pencil drawing, I usually scan them, and then I have the black and white drawing, and then I add the colors using Photoshop. So that's the program that I'm most familiar with. And for digital drawing, I have to say, like you mentioned, for me also like the feel of the pencil of the paper and the texture of it, it makes a huge difference for me. So with digital drawing, it's a little bit of a transition, but I've realized that, if you're a little bit familiar with Photoshop and you start experimenting, it's actually a lot of fun and you can do many more things. You can, there are no consequences. You can erase everything. You can move everything around, and it's a little bit harder with pencil drawings. So
Yeah.
I've been really enjoying, playing around with that.
Nice. So we have a question again that, people think they've seen a bunch of these images as covers for scientific journals. So what is that like? How does that come about? What was your feeling when the first one was invited to be on the cover? Because I'm assuming that's an invitation, right?
It depends on the project. So at the beginning, I just started making drawings. I started putting them on Twitter and on social media. And that's when I realized there's a whole community about science art. And I met all of these amazing science artists. And everybody has a different style and all that. So for me, with the journal covers is I started, so after I made my first drawing, I started making drawings for people in my lab and for my PhD friends and all that. And so they just, whenever they submitted something to the journal, sometimes the journal gets back to them and asks, do we have a picture for the cover? We want to highlight your story. And so I always made drawings for them, and they submitted it together with that. And then and that's how I got my first journal cover. I think my first one, I might have it here. I tried to prepare all of my drawings here, but I think if I remember correctly, this is my first one that got on a cover.
Okay.
And that shows that is yes, that's a lot going on. So basically what's going on here, this is a drawing about the orientation of the mitotic spindle. So when cells divide, they can divide in different directions. They can divide like this or like this. And that makes a difference if you're in a tissue, if you're in a brain, it makes a difference for the whole structure of the organ. And so here what I drew is a compass.
Okay.
Kind of deciding the orientation of the mitotic spindle. Maybe some of you can recognize the spindle in there.
Right.
And that in the brain, the orientation of the spindle decides what happens to the cell later during development. And so then the rest of the thing here is a map showing a brain with all of the cells there and all of the regions in there. And so the point is to show that the compass, the orientation of the spindle, determines where in the brain the cell will end up.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see. That's really cool. And also very detailed. I love like how the compass looks like it's literally lifting up off of the paper. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we also have a few more sort of general questions. We're getting into the science, and I love microtubules, but so I'm going to guess that, you started out doing art and that became a thing. Is that sort of a natural progression happened into the fashion side of things, or is that a separate hobby that you've always had?
I've always loved fashion too. So actually, when I was considering, what I didn't mention at the beginning is I also was considering fashion school in addition to art and science after
Okay.
high school. But it was never, a thing that I, primarily thought I would actually do. I always loved, colorful clothes and things like that. But I think the science art, like the transition into doing creative things with science, kind of helped me get into the science fashion as well, kind of the mindset that I got through it. And the inspiration for the science fashion was basically I started doing a lot of microscopy. So I was sitting, in these huge dark rooms with fancy microscopes, taking pictures of these tiny cells. And I really loved the beauty of it. And I never really knew about this before I started studying science. And I thought it's such a pity that no one ever really shares these images outside of the labs with the world and with people who might be excited about science. And so that's when I thought, oh, maybe I can try, to print some microscopy images on a scarf and wear it and see how that goes. And people really liked it. So even, walking on the street, people sometimes talk to me, ask me, oh, what is this? And then I can tell them, oh, it's actually science, it's real cells. And also wearing the stuff at conferences has been really, really amazing, because then you meet all the people who actually know what it is, and they
Right.
and we can all get excited about it together. But that's how I got into it. So basically, I started with the scarves and then started printing the art on different fabrics and also having different types of clothes made. And then I started putting it all on my little Etsy shop that I have
Mhm.
online, because there's a great community of science art on Etsy as well, which I didn't know
Right.
before. And I just wanted to contribute to that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's how it happened. Basically, through the microscopy, I started printing things on fabric and then started making different types of clothes.
Now, is your t-shirt currently or the top you're wearing one example? Because as you move, I can sort of see that it's maybe cells, I think, but it's really, really pretty. I really like the gradation of the color. So is this one of
Thank
the
you.
pieces as well?
Yes, so this is, I don't know if you can see this here.
Aha.
So this is the fabric.
Yes. Yes.
And so what you can see
More
here
metallic.
is human cells. And so
Okay.
every blue, wait, where am I pointing here? So every blue circle here is a nucleus. This is where the genetic information is. So every blue nucleus is one cell. And then the networks that you can see here in the rainbow colors are actually, again, microtubules.
Yes.
So as you know, so they form these really pretty networks. And microtubules are important for so many different parts, so many different processes of the cell, that I just really love highlighting them.
Right. And they do. They definitely outline the cell really nicely. So it's like a good thing to look at for like the shape of the cell.
Exactly.
We yeah. Um, we have one question that goes back to the art, but I had my own question about the fashion part as well. But
Sure.
someone's asking, this is Shobana again, asking if you have formal training in art, or do you recommend formal training in art? How do you sort of practice while also being, a graduate student, or generally having some other day job?
That's a really great question too. I can say from my experience, and I might not be the best example for that, is that I never felt, like I'm ready to start drawing and to start making art or anything. It just happened, one step led to the next one and to the next one. And often it was just driven by deadlines also. Like I had to make this drawing and I thought, and that's what actually made me actually follow through with it, in addition to
Right.
having it as like an idea. And for formal art training, I don't really have any formal art classes or anything, but I did grow up with my mom. She's a painter. So
Okay.
I just remember her painting with me when I was a child. And I loved making these pencil drawings before I got into the science art a little bit. But most of it is just with experience. And also with every drawing, I learned more and more how to use Photoshop, how to, make it easier and make it better to add the colors and all that. So I feel like with every drawing, I learned a little bit more just by doing it without even, thinking about it. So I would say that I don't think you need art classes, because what I love about the field of science art and art in general is that it's not like in science where you have all of those rules with how figures are supposed to look and all that, but it's just creativity. So any type of, medium you have, any type of style you have, it's all great. There's space for all of it, and everybody will love all kinds of different styles. So I don't think there is a need to be worried about having formal classes. If you have them and if you want to do them, of course that's amazing. But yeah, don't. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, don't worry if you don't feel like you're ready to start sharing your art. It's part of the process, and that's how it made it possible for me as well.
Nice. I think that's really good advice, because I think especially nowadays, with all of with social media being like our best selves, right? Everything that's the best about us goes up on social media. And so it's pretty easy to get dejected when you look at all the amazing things out there. But I think just continuously practicing probably is good to kind of get better. I mean, even my doodles, and they start out on like ruled paper, but they've gotten better over the years, slightly. They've gotten better over the years.
And
We
that's
have a
also how you
question
can make
again.
your
Oh,
own style. So I was just
they,
going to say that's just how you also your own style develops, because I never really had a plan. Oh, I'm going to draw these hands now and things like that. It's just one by one you kind of get a feel for what your style will be.
right. And I guess you also get a sense for what people seem to react better to versus other kinds of things. I guess if you try many things, you learn like what connects best with people, right? I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Because I have noticed the same thing. I don't make science fashion, but I have like these one pair of like neuron earrings, and sometimes I have these pins on, and I do notice that people are very attracted to those kinds of things and to ask about them, and it really makes a fun conversation start. That normally why would that happen? Why would I randomly be telling people about neurons? But yeah, so I really think this is a cool medium to kind of get science out there. We have a question about the kind of microscopy. So I think we have a lot of scientists already here. Because someone's asked if you have a particular kind of microscopy you prefer, or have you considered just using something like bright field?
Yes, I think for me it's just historically the microscope that we had in the lab that was my favorite one is the one that I happen to use most. So my favorite type of microscopy is confocal microscopy, which is microscopy where you have basically it's based on fluorescence. So you add dyes or proteins to the cell that
Mhm.
makes certain structures glow to make it visible and to make it easy for us to take images of. So basically, I think all of my microscopy passion is based on this type of microscopy. Using different type of microscopy like bright field would be really fun too, and I do have access to those microscopes as well. It's just I just have to kind of figure out what to do when. It's a whole other conversation. But basically, yeah, my favorite part is fluorescence microscopy because of the colors. And the reason why everything has these bright colors like green and red and blue is because that's what fluorescence microscopy actually looks like. So all of the colors in my art are inspired by that.
Right, right. So I guess, now you've carried this, I wouldn't even call it a hobby at this point. I call it a side hustle, I guess. Separate hustle. I guess you've carried that over two different, your PhD life and now into your postdoc. So how have like your lab mates, how have your PIs reacted to this, having this other half of your life that is very cool and very science based, but because a lot of times people tend to think like hobbies will take time away from your primary job, and you have to be really careful about how much time you put into these things. So how
I
has
know
that been
exactly
for
what
you?
you mean. And that's also how I felt at the very beginning before I started at all. I was kind of a little bit unsure whether it's okay for me to do that, because so I used to basically work in the lab day and night. And through discovering this, I started transitioning into working in the lab during the day and doing art at night. So trying to find some sort of balance that kind of divides the things that I do in a way that works for everyone. I have to say it was a difficult transition for me, and I'm sure if you're a scientist, you can relate to that. But one thing that I was really, really lucky, and I see that many scientists are like that, is that they do appreciate the value of this. So not even like you taking away your time from the lab work, but also like using this art to promote their own research, using this art on their websites to, for example, to get people to join the labs who are creative, who love this type of work as well. So more
Right.
and more, I feel like people, scientists and group leaders are recognizing that this is a thing that can help their science as well. And so from my own experience, I've been really lucky to have all of the support that I had. And I think it would be really a big pity if someone would, let their, peers or group just discourage them to do that. I
Right.
feel like one thing, if you're working in a lab, that I can suggest is that while you're working on your art, you can also do something to give value to the lab. So maybe you can design the website, or you can, help them with the communications and make the covers, drawings for the covers and things like that. So it's a kind of like a two-way thing that you can do for yourself, but also for your lab, and everybody can benefit from it.
Right. Okay. I think that's a great point. If you have that thing of giving back something, I guess there's even less of a reason to sort of discourage anybody from, doing something else with their time. So I guess sort of bigger picture, right, with SciArt, what are you hoping? Like, what would be your ideal case for how science and art and its intersection develops as a way to kind of bring science to people? So I know your work is really cool. Like, how do you hope that this will start popularizing, I guess, science?
Yes, that's a great question too. I feel like ever since I kind of joined the Twitter and the kind of the SciArt world, I feel like it's getting more and more popular. I keep on discovering amazing artists almost every day, and I just love being able to be part of this community. I think continuing to do that, to develop that, and getting it more out there and out into the world, both inside the scientific world and also outside of the scientific world, to create events, encourage young people. I think all of this will be super, super powerful. And overall, I think one of the reasons why I really think this is important is that, especially when you think about, young students who, they might have multiple passions. They might love, science. They might also love art and things like that. And those students who don't really fit the classical scientific stereotype, the guy with the lab coat, might get discouraged from becoming scientists, even though they might be super talented and super creative. So I think one of the most important parts in terms of sharing science outside of the scientific community is to show that, science doesn't have to be presented as being super intimidating and that it has to be scary and difficult, but science can also be approached in a different way. And I always see this when I talk to students and younger people, when I show them my drawings and they don't really think much about science. They just come up with the most amazing scientific questions randomly just because they have a different way of connecting to it through the visuals. Right. So I think that's a really important step. And also within the scientific community, having a way to bring attention to your finding, to your scientific finding. There's so many papers coming out, having something that makes it easy for people to kind of immediately see what it's about and what value it brings is something that's super valuable as well. And also, scientists collaborating within different fields. There's now so many specializations. If there is a way, to make something, people remember what you do and kind of highlight the creativity of it is really valuable as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's all good points there. And I really especially like the one about, I think we often think of this person likes science and that's the only thing defining them. But more often than not, especially with younger students or younger audiences thinking about what they want to do career-wise, it might be more discouraging to kind of have to, box yourself into one thing and then kind of give up one. But I think your journey is a good indicator that, you can do both. You just need to have a way to do that and to not, I guess, lose that over time. And so segueing in, I was hoping this would segue in, I don't know, into your microscopy game, because I'm assuming that is one way that you are hoping to kind of, give back, I guess, to the community or bring in the community, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the science video game just came from the idea. So I had this opportunity to get some funding for an outreach-related project through my If Then ambassadorship. And I thought making a science video game would be really fun, just because my background is I just love video games. I love kind of the video games that create these, fantastical worlds and just get you out into a different reality. So I always thought it'd be really fun to design a game. But again, I thought I would never be able to do that. I don't have time for it. But then because I had this opportunity, I thought this would be really great. And so what we're doing right now is we're creating this game that will be based on visuals, based on my drawings. It will be inside of the cell, and you can explore kind of the vastness and the depth of the world inside the cell. I think I have a little printout here, okay, with some very preliminary drawings. But so for example, what you can see here, so you are inside the cell, there's the mitochondria, and then there's microtubules. And so you are basically inside of this huge world, and you're walking around on the microtubules. You're solving puzzles that are based on real molecular mechanisms. So these are very, very rough sketches, but basically it will be, I just want to make it visually engaging. And basically one thing that I feel like what happened to me during my science lessons in school is a lot of the things that you learn are very, simplified and presented as very isolated. So you have this pathway, you have this organelle. And in reality, as I was doing more microscopy, was working more with science, I realized it's all happening at the same time, and it's all just amazing. Like the way all of these processes are intertwined inside the cell, all the things that are happening, it's just really amazing, but it never really comes across when you just read a book. So the idea with the game is to kind of show the vastness and the beauty of this whole molecular world and just get people, give people a feel for what's actually going on inside each cell that we have.
Yeah, and no, it looks really cool. It looks really cool. So what stage is it in, I guess? Is this very preliminary right now? When are you expecting to launch, I guess? And how do we access this game?
Great question. Yeah, so that is it's still in development, and because I'm doing this for the first time, it's a little bit difficult to tell. But we already have basically almost a first playable prototype that we are about to start testing and just making sure that it all works. It's the whole team that we have is basically we're all super excited about it, but we're also doing it for the first time, so it's a really exciting experiment for us too. But
Okay.
so the idea would be that the launch would be hopefully in fall, or maybe even by the time the Comic-Con is happening in San Diego, which would be a really
Okay.
nice, coincidence with the timing. And so it's going to be released on phones, like on Android and on iOS and on the computer as well. So we really want to make sure there's no barrier to entry. It will be free to play and all
Right.
that. And and if anyone wants to, get in touch sooner and maybe test it and give us feedback, that would be amazing too. So just reach out.
So, where would we find specifically the game, I guess? How do
Yeah,
we
so
reach
I
out to
made a
people who want to
little
be beta tester?
I made a little preliminary page on my website where you can sign up for being, contacted if you're interested in testing it or if you want to know when it comes out. So it would be, I don't know, can I type the website in a chat or something?
I
Does that
think
work, you
so. I
think?
think so. Add a
Let's
comment.
try that. Okay, I've never used this before, so let's try this.
Every time I do one of these, new things have happened, and with the phone just stuck somewhere and you don't kind of want to press the wrong thing. Wait, what?
Especially during a live stream.
Right, like,
But okay, so I'm trying to post the link. Let's see if that works. I just posted it as a comment, and it's basically, so the name of the game will be Microscopia, like
okay.
microscopy, and so you can go there and you can see the poster that I just showed you and sign up and contact me if you want to have a little of a bigger role in it. But yeah, I'm super
Okay,
super
awesome.
excited about it, and I can't wait to see it released soon.
Nice. So the team that you work with, is that is this a general team that you have for all the kinds of media you work with, or is this more a, I guess, programming, developing software sort of group of people that you're working with for this?
So that was a really interesting adventure for me as well to kind of figure out how to get a team. So basically, we all so what we did need to find a team of developers because I don't have enough experience in programming. It's a whole other world. So we are using this program called Unity, which is a very popular format for making games. And so basically, what's happening? So we have the programmers. I'm making sketches for them, explaining to them all of the molecular puzzles and all that to program it. And then in addition to that, I'm making the art. And then we have more people, making animation, coming up with a story, and some amazing musicians. And I can't wait to share the music as well. So all of us are really excited about this, and we can't wait to see how that comes together. But basically, the whole idea was to come up with a concept and then reach out to different people and then start collaborations. And yeah, so that's how we've been doing it so far.
I really like it. It kind of reminds me, I don't know if you've ever seen the Allen Institute for Cell Science. They do this VR thing where you get to be inside a cell. So like you're suddenly kind of floating around and interacting with like either microtubules, you're walking on them or you're seeing like these mitochondria move by. It's really, really fun. And I know like I'm in the science field, but it's still so exciting for me to be like, I want to do this. So I will sign up as a beta tester. I'm perfectly happy to test this
Awesome.
game.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I mean, with the link up there, I'm hoping everybody from this also signs up. We do have now a controversial question, not really, but across all of your media, across all of your pieces, do you have a favorite, or do you not want to pick a favorite? Do you not want to call one a favorite?
You mean between the media that I'm using for science art?
Well, I guess we can go both ways. Do you have a favorite medium, but then also do you have a favorite piece? Just whatever it is. It could be an art piece, it could be a fashion piece. I guess it could be the game.
That's hard
Favorite.
to choose, I guess, because all of them, I'm really invested in all of them. I think in terms of favorite media, I guess traditionally, I just love, drawing on paper. And one of my favorite parts of the process is actually before starting the drawing. So with
Okay.
my drawings, what I often do is, sometimes authors contact me and they want to me to make a drawing for their story. And that story can be anything. It's not necessarily cell division. So sometimes it's fields that I'm not super familiar with. And
Right.
then one fun part is, they send me the manuscript and they say, come up with something. And then I get to read it and I have to research the background a little bit and about fields that I'm not as familiar with. And I never thought that I would actually, through my art, would be able to kind of expand my scientific horizon with that as well.
Right.
So reading that paper and then, coming up with some ideas, distilling the most important part of the finding. There's always a balance between too much and too little information in science visualizations. So
Sure.
kind of coming up with ideas, analogies, or plays on words or metaphors is really fun. And then I usually just make a few first sketches and then discuss with the authors, and it goes back and forth. And it's just a really fun process to kind of see it all kind of come together into a drawing.
Nice. So, okay, so that is your favorite medium, but now favorite
I guess,
piece.
yeah. Favorite piece is also hard to tell.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I've seen your collection online. Like, there's a lot of them. So,
It's just like, so I could talk for hours about every single piece, which I will not do to you right now. But I guess one of my favorite ones is, of course, the one that I showed at the beginning with the scissors, just because of the whole history. This is how I got into it. There's a few other pieces that I'm excited about just because of the story behind it. So, for example, one of the most fun projects that I had was making space mission patches for space
okay,
missions that for experiments. So
okay.
there are these research groups who, for example, they send worms into space to study what happens to the muscles when there's no gravity. Just like with astronauts, we want to make sure that long distance space travel is something that we can do in the future without having a lot of health problems. So, for example, I think I put them somewhere. Where did I put them? I laid out all of my things just in case. But for example, this is a patch that I made for them.
Oh, wow.
That kind of describes the name of just like the NASA space missions, just explains the name of the experiment. And so this is a worm in a spacesuit holding a dumbbell or I guess a weight to show the muscle aspect of it.
Okay.
Or then there's
That's pretty
another
cool.
one. There's another one. Hold on. So here's another one, a glowing worm under a microscope in
Yes.
space.
Oh, in space. Okay. Oh, yeah, he has the little hat. It's not called a
It
hat.
has a little head, but it's
You know what I mean.
glowing. And then
Yeah.
down here, this little box here is like a small satellite. It's a system where people can send their own little space experiments in like a format there to test different things. So that has been really fun just because of the story behind it. I just love space. I
Right.
love science fiction and all that. So that's one of the fun ones that I can show. But also in general, I can show you a few and I can tell you why I like them. But it's really hard for me to pick one.
Fair. No, that's fair.
But yeah,
Paramveer, who's asked the question, has also added, is it like picking a favorite child? So, you don't really want to have to
exactly.
go that far. But your story is really cool. Like, it's brought you to so many very different things, right? And just I'm going to say simple, but I don't mean simple, but just the one thing of having like a drawing of science, and you've now done space related things with it. And I know you've worked with scientific societies as well to come up with merchandise and fun stuff. So I guess more long-term career-wise, right? Because you're in science, how do you see this melding of your science and your art continuing for you career-wise?
That is always the question that I ask myself as well. So I think for me, at this point, I would say I really love doing all of it. I love doing the art, but I also like having kind of the connection to science as well. And so I can't really give you any specific ideas, but if there was a way for me in the future to combine all of them into one thing where I don't have to stop doing any of them, but being a little bit less fragmented between the research and the art and all that, just having something where I can combine all of them would be really, really amazing for me. Right now, I don't have any specific ideas. It's I'm just taking the opportunities I have and see where it goes. And same with the research. I'm working on a research project, of course, as well. So right now, I'm trying to get the best experiences out of all the things that I'm doing right now. But for the future, it'll be really interesting to see. And what really inspires me is that often I meet people that have unconventional careers or group leaders who have a whole other science art aspect in their work as well, and they are able to merge it. So whenever I asked people like that, they tell me, oh yeah, it was this coincidence and that, and this thing led me to the other thing. It's not something that you can plan in advance. So
Great.
I really love just seeing where the opportunities will take me, and then yeah. So I don't think if this is something that you want to do in the future, I think the best way is to just start doing it and see where it goes and what
Right.
opportunities arise. Yeah.
I think especially right now, because like science art right now is a new concept, right? So the careers for it haven't really been set in stone. And I think that's where a lot of people, at least people I've spoken to who seem to like doing artwork related things, struggle a bit in knowing, what's the best route forward. Like, how do you actually make sure you're preparing yourself to have a career in this? And I guess that's a really good point. Like, there aren't really careers in it right now. Like hopefully by the time, a couple of years in the future, there will be. But for now, I guess you just kind of have to grab the opportunities as they come. And
And the
the
people who have careers that are able to merge it, they made their careers. It wasn't like a thing before, right? So there's these scientists who are professors but also make video games that are connected to science. There are, there are some great examples with 3D animation, like a lab that does 3D animation, or basically having that as part of their research. So all of these people that I've met and talked to, it all, at least the ones that started, a little bit earlier than us, they all, it just happened to them, and it's not something like that they applied to and then they got a job. It's just they just made it. And I just love the idea of having, this freedom and just seeing where it goes.
completely agree. I think that would be like the perfect sort of blend is to, not have to separate between what's a hobby and what's your job. Like if you really like something kind of, this is a joke, but at one point during the pandemic, I kind of wanted to become like a lifestyle blogger. So then I'd just do everything I wanted to do, and that would be the job. Like, all my plants and my cooking. But, that kind of thing. It's just getting off topic. Okay. What else can we talk about? Oh, I did have to put one plug in the middle. So with Taste of Science this year, with the festival, we've created this festival passport. So for every event that you attend, attendees get a little stamp that's specific for that event. So for today, because this is an Instagram live event, we don't really get a list of who's attending. So if you have been attending, just send an email to, and we'll put the email in the chat, and you will get an email version of the stamp to add to your passports. Okay, and there's also a plug for our, so we have a new email format called Peers and Pubs, which is trying to bring the concept of a journal club outside of, scientific programs, academic programs, and make it more informal, where we have a scientist invited to speak about a paper in their own, in their research area or their own research paper with like a family member or a friend. And this is a moderated conversation by one of the Taste of Science volunteers. It's a really fun format as well because you have a scientist who really cannot be using a lot of jargon at this point. Like if you're trying to talk to, how would you explain this to your mom, right? It's that kind of a thing. Like how would you explain it to someone who's not in the scientific field? So on April 30th, we will be having another event for peers and pubs where there is a whole lab that is doing scientific illustrations and they will be presenting as well. So please join in for that.
And I
Um,
love the idea of that format. It sounds really, really fun.
Maybe we will have you one day. This is now, yeah, this doesn't have to be a binding contract. Uh, I guess to close off, we wanted to do like a rapid fire, but we didn't want to make it something difficult. We just wanted it to be fun. So I'm just going to try to throw questions out at you and, just see your answers. So I guess, what is your favorite lab equipment?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, obviously, I probably have to say microscope.
Like with everything, actually, that makes sense. Yeah, with everything that's behind you. What is your favorite part within the cell, inside of a cell?
Wow. Okay. My favorite part
Mm,
inside of the cell. Again, I'm really biased when it comes to cell division. So I would say that my favorite part of the cell would be the mitotic spindle or something like that. So the
okay.
mitotic spindle is I might as well really quick kind of show you what it looks like. I have a shirt right here that has some of it. So this is what it looks like. And that's the structure that pulls the chromosomes apart. So
Okay.
I just love the way it looks.
Mine is the mitochondrion. I just really like mitochondria. They're great.
And there will be a
Um,
part about mitochondria in the game, by the way.
in
So
the
you might
game as
enjoy
well.
that.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I really can't wait to sign up for this. Are you doing beta testing right now? Like, if people sign up, are they actively getting sort of recruited into testing out phases of the game and stuff like that? Connection issue. Just a second. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I
I
don't know what
wasn't
just
sure if
happened.
I was, like, was I just talking and nothing was actually happening? It's hard to tell. Uh,
I heard it was. Is it working? Me or
um,
her? Me? Okay. Can you hear me now? Hello?
I can. It cut out a bit for a second there. I can hear you now. Ooh,
All right. Yeah. So
please
the last thing
imagine
I
one of
heard
those.
was the question about whether people can already start testing the game.
Right, yes.
So for that, so right now we're doing something I would call alpha testing. So we're just making sure that you can go through the game from the beginning to
Technical
or something like that.
difficulties.
Then, oh no, I don't know what's going on
Well, I
my
mean, if you
end.
want me to, do you want to try reconnecting? I can always add
Maybe,
you
yeah.
again.
If that doesn't mess up the whole stream, why don't we quickly do that? Maybe that's better than
Okay,
just
sure, yeah.
messing with that.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll
so I'm
try
going to
adding you
close the
back.
app and you can invite me again. Okay?
Okay, great. See
Cool.
you in a second.
See you really soon.
I guess I can still keep talking in the meantime. Uh, you know, I was saying, please just imagine one of those GIFs that say technical difficulties. Sometimes these things happen. It's difficult. Like right now, my setup is my phone hooked up to a power bank. Behind it is a ring light. There's a laptop here that I'm trying to also handle at the same time. Uh, it's a lot of stuff. But we'll get Beata back in a second. And I guess this is as good a time as any for closing remarks because Instagram lives tend to be 1 hour long and they tend to just cut off. So I'm just going to remind everyone out there again, our festival is currently happening. If you go to tasteofscience.org, you will see all of the information you need to register for any upcoming events, all the information about events we've done in the past, more about what the organization does. So head on over there. And as for Beata's website, let me just make sure I have the link right. Yeah, so you can go to beatascienceart.com. Oh, Ankita, what's my favorite microscopy? Uh, well, I can only say fluorescence microscopy. I only do fluorescence. It's the first kind of like complex microscopy I've ever done. Um, many people are saying many things. I'm getting distracted now. But yes, so fluorescence microscopy, I think I don't unfortunately have any of them up here, but that's the kind I would call my favorite. And thank you, Linda. Some of these are mine. And as to the cat, I did not forget the cat. She was here at one point, and I was like, please don't try to join this one thing now. You don't need to be here. Let's see. Okay. Invite. My cat is here right now. Oh, here, this is the cat. How does one get added back? So there's a button on the bottom here that just allows you to add someone. I assume you mean as like part of the video. So if you click it, you should get a list of people to search through, and you should be able to add someone from there. She's not receiving the invite. Okay, let me try again. Let's see. Okay, invite. Okay, she's restarting the phone. My cat is now sitting behind the ring light. This is pretty scary because, cats like to knock things over. So this could end poorly on both sides. Ooh, okay.
Hello?
Hello. Hi.
Hey, I'm sorry. I really don't know what happened.
I just think internet struggles. I think
Probably.
it happens to all of us. No, we were just, I think a lot of us were just kind of chatting about my cat, really unrelated things. Uh,
Oh,
oh, Linda says my favorite part of the cell is the synapse. Nice.
oh,
Um,
nice.
and we did get information about, what the issue was. Like you weren't getting the invite and stuff. Who knows? Who knows really what happens? But yeah,
So the rapid
I
fire
actually,
questions weren't so rapid. Sorry about that.
no, it's okay. Having to pick is a little difficult, so sometimes the extra time helps. So I was actually trying to put your website in the chat. I was doing, last plugs for everyone.
Thank you. I
Actually,
appreciate that. Yeah.
yeah, for more information on everything that Dr. Mierzwa does, uh, I will send it now. But yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I guess we're kind of running close to the end of when this will cut off. And I know from previous experience that if I don't choose to end this, it will close and I will not be able to find the recording again. I don't know what happens. So we have like 10 minutes, but like I'll make sure to cut it short early. But, any last thoughts for us, I guess, in terms of inspiring the next generation of, science artists? I know some of them are in this chat here.
Yeah, I would say one of the things that I really love saying is that, treat your passions, whatever they are, as like an big experiment for your life and see where it leads you. Like don't worry about, not being ready or anything. All of these things just develop by doing them. And also basically what I want to bring across with most of the work that I'm doing in terms of outreach is that you can, you can love art, you can love creativity, you can love science, and you can be whoever you want, and you can still be an amazing scientist. So I really want to encourage people not to be afraid of science or of, combining the two.
Right.
So that are my thoughts in terms of, getting people excited about science, sparking curiosity about science. And
Okay.
yeah, and I'm really, really excited to see, where all this whole science art field goes and the community that we have, how it grows and how everybody can add their, their creativity and their take on science art. And that's why it's been really exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's just a lot, like in any kind of creative media, right? Like you now have science comedy, you have songs and poems that people write. I think it's interesting to bring science back into the more, artistic, cultural aspects of life as well, because for too long now we've been kind of white lab coats, right? Uh, and I don't think that's really helping our cause as much. We have one last question, I guess. Any collaborations with other science artists that you currently have?
Yeah, so I've been collaborating a lot with different types of science artists. Some of the collaborations are still going on and things like that. But so right now I'm actually about to collaborate with David Goodsell, who is a really, really big
Ooh,
inspiration for
okay,
me.
cool.
So,
Okay.
writing like a commentary a perspective about our views on science and art. And we both have very complementary approaches. So it's going to be really exciting. And there's other group leaders that are huge promoters of science art as well, like Carsten Janke in France, for example. He's trying to, he had a PhD student who was an artist doing his PhD in his lab and things like
Yeah.
that. So I've been in touch with all of these people who, have different approaches of getting this into the world and getting it a little bit more accepted. Also in terms of getting funding for future projects and
Right.
workshops and things like that. So yeah, I've been working with a lot of different people on just trying to get that community together and to try to start making a change in the whole way we see science and art.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice approach. And, hopefully it does become sort of a community, kind of the way, like the science Twitter now, where it's a community of scientists. So hopefully, in the near future, we get to do something like this where bring people in, do the art, do the science.
That'd be
Yeah,
amazing. I agree.
yeah. Well, I guess on that note, I will probably wrap up here, I guess. It's so awkward to kind of end a live interview. Like, what do I say now? This is it. This is over. But, thank you so much for joining us today, for taking time out of your afternoon. And, all the technical stuff aside, I think it was a really nice talk. And, we had a lot of really nice questions from the audience as well. So thank you to everyone who joined, everyone who stayed on. And please do visit, Beata's website. If it's beatascienceart.com, if it's kind of gotten lost. do visit our website as well, tasteofscience.org. And Beata, I hope we, stay in touch, and I hope there's a chance for maybe us to collaborate as well at some point.
I would love that, yeah. And I really enjoyed the conversation as well. I think it was really great. I actually really like the format because it's really, really interactive. So really, thank you for showing me this. And I would love to collaborate in the future as well and stay in touch and
Awesome.
support you.
Awesome.
And yeah, I love the event that you're putting up as well. So I'm really honored to be part of it.
No, actually, pleasure is ours. But yeah, okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming to this. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what's coming next.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.